Welcome back, everybody. Now, as the academic year comes to a close, many students are feeling the stress of looming deadlines and examinations. Is it difficult to balance the demands of school with the digital world? Well, Digital Detox have tips for students on how to approach the new year with a fresh perspective. To tell us more, we are now joined virtually by STADIO's Head of Student Recruitment and Marketing spokesperson, Atelisha Harilal. Atelisha, a very good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Good morning. What a pleasure to be with you. Yes, thank you.
Great stuff. What are some of the digital addiction impacts among the youth?
I think what's important is the first one is social isolation, because it leads to a false sense of connectivity that doesn't really bode well. And then finally, decreased productivity, where it eats away your time and you're not able to devote your time or manage your time accurately, which can unfortunately lead to a little bit of decline in academic performance.
And why is it so important for students to sort of practice healthier relationship with technology, especially now that it's exam time?
I think the key word is balance. We live in a world where being au fait with technology, understanding AI is key to overall success. But it's also important to maintain your focus, a good sleep cycle, overall mental health and well-being. And I think finding that balance is key to unlocking great performance.
Yeah, and the key word there is balance. And how can these practices, of course, positively influence students' exam performance and overall academic achievements?
I think the first thing is a quality of sleep. I think we sort of don't focus on how important sleep is. And then from there, reducing the amount of stress on the brain, improving mental health because you're not seeing other people, the constant comparison and sometimes bullying which can occur, and improving your time management skills. Overall, that empowers you to have a more focused mindset during the exam period.
And how can higher education institutions, that is, ensure that students practice a much healthier relationship with technology, even though it's used as a learning platform these days?
I think that, again, I'm going to come back to the issue of balance. We must use it as a learning platform. We must promote technological thinking, solutions-based thinking, critical thinking skills, and how to use AI. But at the same time, we must offer students support on how to manage their time, on how to strike the balance between tech use time and then actual focused study time, actual focused social time. And I think as institutions, it behooves us to provide resources that help students to foster that digital well-being and helps them to deal with the demands of this online environment, which can often lead to mental health issues because there's a constant comparison of yourself to a very curated reality and snippets of someone else's life. So support and guidance is key.
Earlier on, you talked about social isolation. And having said that, what are your digital detox tips for students, especially with exams underway?
I think very simple. Number one, set specific times every day for which you're going to completely disconnect and give your brain a chance to rest from the constant energy of social media. Screen-free bedtime, meaning at about 3 hours before you intend on going to bed, stop scrolling. I think that's a toughie because we all lie in bed at night, scrolling through the grams. So I think that will instantly give you a better quality of sleep because we know that blue light and the mental stimulation from social actually stops your brain from producing the good hormones that make you go to sleep. And then finally, limit your screen time. I understand that for a lot of young people, they want to be connected and it's how they feel connected to their community. So it's not really realistic for me to say, lock your phone away, but limit your screen time. So give yourself time where you're now going to sit down and revise and you're not going to look at your phone for the next hour or two because you're going to concentrate on your handwritten notes.
Yes,
and that will help you because I think it's so easy while you reviewing your notes on the online platform to just quickly jump over to TikTok and scroll, and next thing an hour is turned into 2 hours. So take time where you've limited your screen time and you're now going to opt to rather revise using the old school methods of making notes and highlighting textbooks.
Yeah. And in your opinion, Atelisha, what are some of the biggest challenges facing students currently in terms of, just balancing their academic and digital lives?
I think there's a lot of pressure on students. There's a demand perception that we want a genius generation. Everyone should be able to code. Everyone must understand AI and prompts, despite the fact that it may not be their natural predilection. They are artists. There are different types of learning skills, different types of expertise out there. And I think looking at only one type of intelligence creates a kind of demand on them. And I think where we are right now is there's a lot of identity creation and community creation in online spaces rather than when we were perhaps younger, and I'm giving away my age here, you look to do that in real life, in your community around you. And I think the pandemic, the sense of isolation, the creation of these virtual communities has been helpful and supportive to people. But at the same time, it has offered a false sense of connectivity, which often is not as rich and rewarding as real life community and real life connectivity. So I think students face both these challenges. These are probably the first generation who some of them have not seen the inside of the classroom and they are getting ready to write their matric exams. For others, homeschooling has become more of a reality, and these exams will probably then lead them to university where they'll be expected to sit in a lecture theatre with 300 of their peers. So there's a lot of challenges facing students right now. And for parents, for teachers, it's important that they have support, a safe space that allows them to express their anxieties, that provides them with support that is non-judgmental, but rather allows them to just speak about what they're feeling. And that way, we will be empowering them to rather be better communicators about the dilemmas, rather than creating a sense where now I have to lock away your phone, now you feel isolated, then you're angry, then it leads to more mental stress, etc. Communication is key. Being open and creating safe spaces will build a healthy culture of communication.
And it's a good thing that you actually brought that one up. And judging by the fact that there's some consternation and concerns with how toxic technology, especially the cell phone, is now becoming, because it has apparently broken families, it has disrupted quality family time. So having said that, what are some of the biggest negative impacts of excessive technology use that you've seen in students?
Look, sadly for me, sometimes you'll be walking around a group of young people and instead of talking to each other, everyone's on their cell phone. So I think for me, that's the number one challenge, is creating the sense of a peer group that is communicative and supportive, that helps a human being to overcome challenges in life. The other thing which really is concerning for me is the sense of self-image and comparison between curated moments from an influencer's life and your real everyday life, which builds a sense of poor body image, poor self-confidence, because they look at these people and aspire to be like them, not realizing you're not seeing every moment of their lives. You're seeing the curated great moments they want to show you. Even Beyonce doesn't wake up looking like Beyonce. And there's a lot of young women who suffer from self-esteem and self-confidence issues because they perceive the world or the realm of social media to be hyper-real or more real than their own lives, and they compare themselves to that. And for me, that is the greatest danger, and why I think it's important that we find a balance where we use social media for the good stuff, the connection, the community, the ability to learn and consume bite sizes of information on topics that interest you. And we learn to handle it with the lens of being sort of consuming it in a balanced fashion, but also communicating about what you are seeing and what you are what you are experiencing and feeling with other human beings around you.
Okay.
And I think that can help us put a sensible lens on what is happening on social media. And too often it's convenient to say, okay, they give the child the iPad and let them scroll for a bit. And it takes a lot more effort to say, let's go have a milkshake and talk about what happened at school today. And for a lot of us as parents, we are busy, we have demanding jobs, we are ferrying them from different events, and that conversation sometimes get lost. So I think it's time to reclaim the old school communication, and let's talk about it.
Okay. And what do you think some of the benefits of digital detox are? I mean, do you think it's possible to find a balance without completely eliminating technology from our lives?
I absolutely think it's possible. And I will use myself as an example. I had a really bad habit during the time of the pandemic because literally you can go nowhere and speak to anyone, no one, that I would be scrolling on TikTok till all hours and then go back, sit down and work where I was in Zoom meetings and team meetings all day. So virtually very little human interaction, although I had the privilege of living with my family and my parents who were healthy and ready to communicate with us at that time after years of having to be at work every day. And it took a lot for me to sort of discipline myself and realize that if I put my phone down and perhaps pick up a book, I'm having a better experience and I'm be able to go to bed easier. To find the balance that I use social media for a smaller amount of time in a day, and then I curate what I'm going to consume on social media. So I'll listen to a podcast that's going to help me behave better in a meeting. I'll engage with influencers who talk about positive impacts, my interests of books and food, and I will consume judiciously those kinds of things. I think once you fall into the trap of doom scrolling and you consume everything indiscriminately, that's when you do yourself a disservice. So I think it's wholly possible to find a balance. But like with any addiction, it takes pointed effort for you to constantly be reminding yourself that, hey, this is not what I want to do. It's been 30 minutes now. It's been an hour now, and your phone has that it can tell you, okay, it is now 10 o'clock, it's time to switch off. It can show you where you're spending however much time on whatever app. And that can give you a clue as to where the actual problem may lie and how you can maybe reshape your behavior. I think we also don't realize how social media can make you feel almost panicked about certain matters that when you're off the platform, you wouldn't think about so much and wouldn't dominate your thoughts so much. So, you just create this sense of panic for yourself. And all of a sudden, you're fearful, thinking, is it going to be, what's going to happen, this kind of thing, all of which has no impact on your mental well-being because you actually panicking over matters that you really can't have an impact on.
Absolutely.
So I think it's wholly possible. You must be determined and you really need to take control of your well-being, and then you'll see the impact.
All right. Atelisha, lovely conversation we've had. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Great stuff. Thank you. That was STADIO's Head of Student Recruitment and Marketing spokesperson, Atelisha Harilal, talking to us about tips for student digital detox.